Good morning, CLC. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this service. Thank you for being a part of our lives. We're happy to have you. And so now I invite you to join me into our inner healing time. Wherever you're sitting, just take a few deep breaths. Fill your lungs with cool, clean air. And as you breathe out, release any stress or tension you may hold in your body. Release any worries or doubts you have about anything that has happened or anything that may happen in the future. Allow your body to relax and allow your mind to be here, now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own. For your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing this idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, in seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release.
I release.
Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
I'm grateful for the good in your life.
Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This just knocks me out too. I mean, that is world class. Let's have a picture of the tree. So the folks at home. What do I need to do? Yeah, let me step aside here. Have a look at all this. I was telling them earlier, I said at night, these two come alive and dance. Yeah. Say, there's a story there. This reminds me, a very long time ago, I had a job writing advertising copy for retail clients. One of them was called the Original Christmas Store. Do you remember them? They were in the malls here, and they sold Christmas stuff year-round. Trees, angels, decor, bric-a-brac, nutcrackers. And they did a bang-up business. And so I went and interviewed the owner, toured their stores, got the backstory, and how they kept the thermostat at 60 degrees. But here's the thing. You would walk in there any time of the year, and it was Christmas. You know, it just kind of came over you. And that's sort of where I want to go with the talk today, is we've had a lot go on. We've had a lot happen in our lives, in this community's life, the creative life community. We suffered a grievous loss, as you know. Many losses in the last 2 years of beloveds of this center who are empty chairs next to us now with a soul sitting in them. And in our world, there's been turmoil and upset and pain, and we need a little Christmas. Yes. Right this very minute. Candles in the window, carols at the spinet. We need a little Christmas right now. So what I want to propose to you is to have a look at this tree and let it in. Have a look at the stuff, the familiar stuff, the beautiful stuff, poinsettias. This is their time of year, you know. Let them in. Let the feeling in. Because there's magic in the air. Despite everything else, there is magic in the air. A lot of times we're too busy to see it, to feel it. We don't want to let the pain of loss and remembrance, and not just loss in the sense that we usually think of it, but our own childhoods departed, you know, dreams deferred, disappointments, aging, all the rest of this stuff. I think it's a reason why a lot of times people won't pray. I had somebody tell me one time who'd been coming to this center, no one you know, long time ago, different planet. Somebody who'd been coming to this center for a long time said to me one day, you know, I tried spiritual mind treatment the other day. I think I like that. And I had my head in my hands, you know. You tried. not to judge, which is what you say when you're about to. Okay? Don't mean to judge. But really, we don't want to be disappointed. When you have a form of prayer that suggests that what you do is first feel it before you have a reason, before you have evidence, before you have proof, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. You're pushing everything out there on the table. Every cliche I can think of, for letting it all ride on this. And it's why we don't want to do it. We hold back, because what if I'm disappointed? I'd be crushed to think. It's like believing that God sits off in the sky somewhere is actually comfortable in a way because you don't have to find out if he is or isn't there. Like maybe he's busy or it's too far a distance or who am I anyway? But if you're engaged in a spiritual practice that suggests that the power that made all creation is right where you are and within you, and you can activate it by your own mind and by your own feelings, then once you do that, you get to see success or failure. Is there a connection? Does this stuff really work? Does this stuff really work? We need a little God. We need a little God in our lives. And the God I'm talking about is ubiquitous, present within everything. It is the magic of creation. It's the magic of, the incarnation. Life coming into form, like a child being born, coming into the world as this new and precious thing in your life every day. Some new dream, not deferred, but realized, this magnificent new reality. We need some of that, a sense of magic, a sense of power. The title of today's talk is Go and Tell the Folk of the Village, which is a lot, actually it's not go and, it's Tell the Folk of the Village is the line, and it's from a fairly obscure Christmas song, which I think Mary's going to play at some point in the season. I'm pointing at the empty harp over here. Called Bring a Torch, Jeanette Isabella. It's a French, very old French carol. It's got a line in there in like the third verse, Go and tell the folk of the village. Somebody has retold this story of the birth of the Christ child to where instead of being in ancient Israel, it's in France. And the two daughters of the family are attending to the child. Somebody's making the story real for themselves as they write the lyric to this piece. And once this child is born, it's Go and tell the folk of the village. So we announce the birth. We announce the blessed incarnation. I have an alternative viewpoint on that I want to share with you. I was driving through my neighborhood the other day, and there's a yard sign, like a campaign sign, and it says, Jesus is the reason for the season. And it's aimed at the street. It's aimed at the street. So whoever's got this sign is telling the world, this is what you should do. Presumably this is what we in this house are doing, but this is what you should do. Jesus is the reason for the season. And I drove past it and I thought, yes, he is. And so are a lot of things. And so is the original Christmas store, and so is this, and so is this morning, and this center, and these hearts, and this life. You make up your own meaning in this life. It's what you're in this life to do. You make up your own meaning about what is sacred, what is impactful, what is important. You ask some people what they most love about Christmas or what most draws them to it, and they'll say family. Others will say food. Others will say music. Others will say time off from school, time off from work, the ability to travel. Some will say skiing the Laurentians, So everybody has their own attachment to it. Some people will say, I'm not moved by it at all. I'm not moved by it all. I'm either part of a faith tradition that doesn't observe Christmas. We have other holidays going on, or I'm not really into spiritual matters whatsoever. Maybe Christmas doesn't do it for you. It doesn't have to, but something does. There's a time of year. There's a place in the world, that to you is special, that brings you great, deep meaning. You might not even want to call it spiritual meaning. I'll call it spiritual meaning for you. It is spiritual meaning because everything is spirit, so everything is spiritual, you know. And skiing can be a spiritual experience. It's all a matter of how you interpret it, how you hold things to be. So I offer an interpretation here about going and telling the folk of the village. To me, that's not talking about religious witnessing. It's fine if you want to do that. I'd rather you didn't on our behalf, using our name. That gets dicey, you know. But in your enthusiasm for this, you know, I know you've brought people here who didn't want to come. I've seen this happen. Often spousal units, but not necessarily, right? You're coming with me this morning. I'm bringing you here. Sit there. I can tell. I can tell from here. Because what I see is this. And one eyebrow kind of up. And then this. And then the phone comes out and looking out the window. And it used to be great when we were upstairs in the other building because we had all the floor-to-ceiling windows and trees across the way. And people would be, oh, look at that. Isn't it pretty out there? And it's like, you don't want to be here, do you? That's okay. That's all right, man, because the first, I think, couple of times I came into this. It's a long story. I don't think it was the first Sunday that I was in a religious science church that I saw the light. You know? It was different, though, I'll tell you. It was different from anything I had ever experienced before. But you come here and you feel something. And you don't have to tell the world about it because you show it. You show it. I promise you, you show it. Your conversation becomes different. There used to be, 75 years ago, in Science of Mind magazine, a column every month. It lasted 5, 6, 8 years, I don't know, and then they moved on to other things. And it was a column written as fiction, okay? Written as encounters in the world. In that wonderful dated language of 75 years ago, and talking about things like roadsters, you know, or someone would be on the train on the way home from work, and it was very sexist and it was very dated, and it had, you know, men went to work and women kept house, and it was, if you look at it through that lens, it's mind-numbing, but that was the literature of the day. But what it had going for it was there'd be a man on his way home from work, sitting on the train, turn to his neighbor and complain about the day that he had and the miserable boss that he had, and he couldn't get a raise and he had no future at the firm. And the man next to him would say something like, have you ever considered your attitude? Perhaps if you forgave and trusted, and this dialogue, and the first guy would be, well, I don't see how that's going to make any difference. Well, you know, and it was written very cleverly and by a very good writer. I think it was Don Blanding actually wrote these. And so there's this back and forth. And what it was saying, it was describing the kind of conversation that you have out in the world when you bought into metaphysics. Ernest Holmes said one day our conversation will be in heaven. This is what he didn't mean upstairs. He meant this is how the conversation will be. This is somebody comes to you with an issue and it's just, oh yeah, my boss is a jerk too. You say, well, how about if we look for the good and praise it? And your conversation around the proverbial water fountain changes, you know, okay? And people notice this stuff. You handle stress differently. That's how we go and tell the folk of the village. So we model it. We have our moods. Ask the people who know me well, you know. I get in a funk from time. I get mad. I have a tendency towards sarcasm. It ran in my family. We were good. We were world-class sarcastics, you know, and I can default to that, but I have another deeper level of this I want to take us to about telling the folk of the village, and that is talking to your faculties, talking to yourself. Here's what I mean. There is, for the New Thought metaphysician, a theoretical approach to Scripture the Judeo-Christian scriptures, the Vedas, any sacred writing of the world, really. And that is to look at it as being all about you. That every character in there is you. Some representative part of you. And every event that occurs in these sacred writings is some experience of you. Learning something, letting go of something, embracing something. It's all about you. Not you specifically, but it's all about the reader, you know. Whoever picks this book up, it's the story of their own journey from darkness to light. Just like Jung said, when you dream, every character in your dream is some part of you. If you go to the old dark house, every room in the house is some part of your consciousness, some compartment of reality. And Charles Fillmore, co-founder of the Unity School, really dug this idea, went off into this idea, created the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, created a book called The 12 Powers of Man, where he likened every one of the disciples to a certain set of faculties within the self. And every last angel and creature and anything that was named in Scripture had some nuance of personal relationship to you. A lot of them kind of blended together, like you have a group of shepherds, you know, they all kind of mean the same thing, except each one is a little bit different from the next. And if you want to read the Christmas story, what they call the Luke birth narrative, in a real interesting way, imagine that all of this is happening not in a distant land 2 millennia back, but it's happening within you tonight. Right now, tonight, angels are singing to shepherds who are falling on their faces, who are being told to get up, dust themselves off, go to Bethlehem and find the child, and then, later you've got the Magi coming, and who are all these people? They're representative of an occurrence of spiritual awakening that's happening not to him then, but to you now. Not to others, but to you. That's what makes it significant. So going and telling the folk of the village, then who is the village? You are the village. You are the village. Why? Because you're made up of constituent parts. You have neighborhoods to the south. You have streets running through the neighborhoods. You have people, if you will. Who are the people? They're your thoughts. They're your concepts, your impressions, attitudes, desires, motivations, intentions, fears, doubts, hopes, dreams, goals, ambitions, etc., etc. All of these things taken together are the population of you. And what you are announcing to this population, in part as if from a balcony above, you know, what you're announcing to this population is that Christ is born. That is to say, the Christ awareness is now in charge of the self. The awareness of oneness, the awareness of one reality, one life, that life being God. Just as Jesus the Christ, who embodied what I'm talking about, said, I and my Father are one, using the vernacular of his time, so you are declaring to the constituent parts of yourself, I and my source are one. Or you could think of it as a father or a mother or whatever you want to think of it as long as it is seen as the cause, the first cause of everything that is, you see. And so I'm declaring this now to my random thinking, to my everyday consciousness, to my habits, to my practices, to my emotions and feelings. If you distinguish between emotions and feelings, which I kind of don't, but some do, you know, emotions are like big present cruise ships kind of come into port, and feelings are the little pilot boats and stuff that dart around them. That's how often it's put, you know. But you're declaring now to your feelings that Christ is born. You're declaring now to yourself that there is one. In the face of many, there is one. All the many are reconcilable back into the one. You're declaring this to your body. That's part of the neighborhood. You're telling, this is how healing works, you know. It's real basic. You're telling your digestive tract this. You know, you're telling the muscles in your back and neck this. You're telling your old football injury this. You're telling whatever it might be. You're telling it, and not just the parts of you that are ailing or need some support, but all of you. You're telling your body, I love you, body. Christ is born. This is the magnificent representation of humankind that I am. You tell your body that, your body responds. It likes to hear that kind of thing. It goes in, you know, up here. But the brain, as well as the mind, I mean, the brain is the whole nervous system. It's not just this thing that sits at the top of the tree. It's all connected. And there's intelligence at every part, within every cell. And you tell this intelligence this good news. You bring it this good news and you bless it, and it responds. Because it doesn't know that it's broken down or it's got a chronic thing or something. You know, it doesn't know that of its own. We have to keep reminding it of that. Now we're giving it some new information, and the body responds. So you say this to every part of yourself. You say it to your work, your career. Come in. You say it to your passions, your interests, your hobbies, your delight. I was watching Brian, you know, musicians always I kind of fixate on, but Brian up here checking the lyrics. Hey man, don't listen. I got one thing to do. Okay? Here I stand. I'm sitting there watching you. You're playing the guitar. You have to remember how to form the chords. You have to remember the structures. You have to remember the sequence of the structures. You have to remember the words, and then you have to articulate the words, and you have to hit the right note with the words, which is just one note of the chords you're playing. And you have to do all of that while smiling and standing there. And that's remarkable to me, you know? And the reason that you're able to do that, and musicians are able to do what they do, and the great people that we admire and buy their work and all the rest of this, able to do what they do, is that they have gone and told that part of themselves that they can do it. That this is a way to express. God bless Michael Nesmith. He just passed, you know. And this is amazing. He never felt like he was taken seriously because he was a monkey. If you remember the Monkees, if you go back to the Monkees, you know. And he was forever a monkey, and he was a really serious musician, and he wanted to do his own work, you know. And now he's free to do it completely, and he's doing it. He's going to do it through all of us. But you tell your faculties the good news, and your faculties take it from there. They take it from there. They take it and run with it in some way. Rather than acting in opposition to you, recalcitrant, hunkered down faculties that won't be moved, they throw themselves with sheer delight into making something happen that's creative and expressive and expansive. When you tell your hands the good news of oneness with Source, they can't not clap. And when you tell your feet the good news of oneness with Source, they can't not dance. See? And this is how we exuberate, a word I made up. we exuberate in life, the good news. So for the Christian, and those raised in a Christian environment, or who have participated in Christian and also heavily pre-Christian elements that come together in this cultural whirlwind called Christmastide, you know? The Yule, the pagan, druidic stuff, the Roman Saturnalia, you know, all of this coming together, the solstice in the north, all coming together through Christ, where it never says in the scriptures that he was born in December, much less on the 25th, but it works. It works. So we put it there, you know. All of this coming together creates this outcropping of something, as like this tree just rises up through the stage to remind us every time we look at it, that we are the beloved, that we are the latest incarnation. Remember always what Meister Eckhart said, the only begotten is forever being begotten. The only begotten is forever being begotten. Each one of us, not just birth as a baby into a grown-up, but a birth in consciousness, a rebirth and a rebirth and a rebirth that occurs continually each time. It's first cause, re-causing, re-happening. And if you find that doing this, telling the village of you this good news, causes you to want to do something out in the world, to tell others, then here's finally what I propose. Here's what not to do. My opinion only. Don't march up to them and say, I am a religious scientist, and you should be too. Because we've got the truth. We've got it going on down there on Spring Stubner and on Facebook Live and YouTube later. Rather than pry them off of their beliefs, rather than try to argue them out of wherever you think they are, give the atheist God, change the God of the religious person or goddess, rather than doing all of that stuff, which is thinking as the world thinks, behaving as the world behaves, take a higher position and tell people, rather than what religion they should be, how beautiful they already are, how wonderful they are, how magnificent they are, how lovable they are, how proud of them you are, what great capacities you see in them, and so forth. And you will think of more things to say. And you won't know exactly where to find the right words, but they'll come to you because you're on the right frequency, tuned into the right channel, you know, to be of maximum service to the world. This is called general kindness. This is called unconditional love. And when people discover this truth within themselves, they have what they need. Whether it's in this room or another room or no room and out under a tree, and they may never credit you for it. They may never say, oh, this magnificent being came into my life and pointed me in the right direction, but it won't matter because you'll be ego-free enough to know that you did the right thing by reminding people of the truth of their own being that has always been there. So let's know together now. One life, one power, one presence, one magnificent source everywhere manifesting in and through each one of us. And we are so grateful for this. We're so grateful for the gifts of the season, which are gifts of spirit. It has been said, and wisely so, that the best things in life are not things. And so it is that the best gifts of this season are not in boxes wrapped in paper, far from it. Those are sweet tokens, sweet gestures that we exchange back and forth, but the best gift of the season is self-awareness. Knowing that there is one life, one power, whatever we call it makes no difference to it, makes no difference to our relationship in it. It's just a matter of personal style and cultural acclamation. Let's just know it is one. And it's doing that which needs to be done. It is awakening the faculties within us to the truth of being. And for this and for all that comes after this, and for the year that stretches ahead, soon to begin on the calendar, and all the plans being laid now for how we carry the momentum of this season into that year, and all that stretches beyond, we are so deeply grateful. I release this word now into that one life that I do think of as my mother, father, God, and I let it be so, and so it is.
So it is. And now, as our ushers make their way to the back, I want to just remind you as we wind down this year and in this holiday season, as you give the gift of love, as you give the gift of community, also give the gift of money to your spiritual center. And so I invite you to give that gift to us right now. And I thank you for all of your support. And I invite you to say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. And now more music.
And I am going to ask that as you do your treatments, to remember the people in Kentucky and Arkansas and apparently this storm system, yeah, it was 6 states. And it hits my heart particularly hard because I've got family in Kentucky. So, and my family is safe. We've checked in, so I'm asking that for those people. It is the Christmas season, for all the fact that it was 80 degrees a couple of days ago, or 85 degrees a couple of days ago. But I'm going to invite you into the Christmas spirit for a moment. What I would like you to do is to bring up everything about it, to engage all 5 of your senses. What does Christmas smell like to you? Peppermint, cinnamon, fir trees, although this one's artificial. What does it look like? Does it look a little darker with the twinkling lights? Is it bright? What does it taste like? Sugar cookies? Again, peppermint. Chocolate. What does it sound like? We just had a beautiful rendition of one of my favorite Christmas songs. And what does it feel like? And I'm going to ask you to do that on 2 levels. Is it cold? Is it cool? Is it warm? Is it being wrapped in a fuzzy blanket just warm from the dryer? Is it sitting in front of a fire? And then what does it feel like in your heart? And here's where you can go ahead and, if it's warm and fuzzy for you, feel that. And if it's a little dark and empty, feel that. Go ahead and let that feeling flow through you. Whatever it is. And then I'm going to ask you to plug into the source of Christmas, the source of your being, the source of all being, the source of life, the source of love. And let that flow through you. And know that you are plugging into an inexhaustible source of love. A source that is always flowing, whether you're aware of it or not. A source that will never say no. A source that surrounds you, whether you're conscious of it or not. But the very act of plugging in makes you conscious of that source. And know with me that there is one life, one presence, one power, one love. And each and every one of us are a part of that love. That love flows through us. We are channels of that love into this world that was created by that love. And in that channel, we know what is ours to do. And right now, it is to hold people. To hold people in a safe place in our hearts. So that whatever they're feeling in this holiday season, we've got them. So for the people who have had this experience of the weather, we know that they are being held in peace and in comfort. And we know that resources right now are already on their way. And for the people who are moving through this holiday season for the first time with an empty chair beside them, we know that love is rushing in to hold them, that dear memories will get them through. And that unexpected visitor will show up on their doorstep at the right moment. So I know love, I know peace, I know comfort, and I hold this for each and every one of you. And I hold this for every living being. And I hold this because I can. Because I was made by a source that created each and every one of us as a vehicle of love. And I'm grateful to know this. I'm grateful to this source. I am grateful to be able to consciously plug in. And I'm grateful for each and every one of you. And I relax and I release. And I know that it is so. And so it is.
Say it with me now. Something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my
I
mind.
feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
I love it.
And I love
So
it.
it is.
And so it
All
is.
right.